Spoilerin time, ladies and gentlemen, and others. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian Brushwood is here. Christy Cates hung around too. You guys ready to spoil some stuff?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm ready to spoil
Yes,
and be
sir.
spoiled.
These shows are like milk, and I am just going to leave them out on the shelf for a week. Is that not?
It's great.
Is
It's
that a good
great.
metaphor?
And then
Right.
force you to drink it.
Is this good? Sniff this. Hey, I tell you what is good. The Man in the High Castle, one of the pilots that Amazon has out for your evaluation right now. And I have to say, I was both excited and nervous about this one because The Man in the High Castle is my favorite sci-fi book of all time. It was the first Philip K. Dick book I ever read. I read it because we had watched Blade Runner in a movie class in college. And when I was reading the backstory about Blade Runner being based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, it mentioned The Man in the High Castle. And I went to the library and checked it out right then. And I've been a fan of it ever since. I was worried about how this would be handled, but it's amazing. Ridley Scott is producing this. He's not directing it, but it's like Ridley Scott is handling this in his production the way he handled Blade Runner as a director, which is, in my opinion, changing the right things to make it work as a TV show, but preserving the spirit of Man in the High Castle. In fact, I'd say he's preserving the spirit of the book even more so than he did with Blade Runner.
Man, I didn't realize that this was such a precious property to you. That sort of changes things. I've read a lot of Philip K. Dick, but for whatever reason, this is one that I just hadn't gotten around to. And I'm actually torn now because I'm almost convinced this will be picked up for a full series. So I don't know if I want to do the audiobook. I'm itching for a new audiobook, but I don't want to color my experience. I guess that's in keeping with the rule that Justin and I have established. Always watch the movie or the TV show first, because then there's just more waiting for you when you read the book.
This is my copy, my personal copy of The Man in the High Castle. Look how beat up it is.
So
A well-loved copy.
I want to hand it off to Christy as fast as I can, but I just want to say my 2-cent review before we get into details is I liked it when I was watching it. I loved it when I spent the rest of the day thinking about it and imagining it. I thought it was really good. Christy, what did you think?
Something about the way they created the world to me was very true to the aesthetic, the way everything looked, the way everything felt. A lot of times when you translate an era like that into a TV show, there's something, I don't know if you guys know what I mean, there's something off about it. And in this one, everything just kind of fit together. It looked right. The characters flowed right. Everything felt right. The dialogue was right. I just, maybe it has something to do with, what I heard is that Ridley Scott actually read the book for this one and he didn't read the Electric Sheep book for Blade Runner. So maybe the fact that he actually read the book gave him more depth when he started working on the show.
I suspect that feeling, that reality that you feel has to do with, because what I noticed is how much of a focus there was on small people and small lives. It's a movie about the small folk in this world. You don't even get a cameo of Hitler. The mega rock star of the World War II story. You see briefly in the background of a fuzzed out shot, and he's talked about only in terms of, hey man, that old man's gonna die and there's gonna be a power vacuum. Let's gossip about it. And instead, you're just concerned with utterly believable people in an astonishingly boring dystopia. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that scene where our protagonist, one of our protagonists, get pulled over because he busts a flat, and this super nice Nazi cop comes over, helps him change a tire, asks politely for his papers, gives him an egg sandwich, and then casually comments, "Oh yeah, no, the ash bodies, those are bodies falling out of the sky."
Yeah, they burn the crippled and the mentally ill. Yeah, drag on the state.
As if it's chilling. Like that moment
Yes.
was just chilling in its casualness, much as the filth of the world of Game of Thrones is utterly believable, where it's like, yeah, no, you drink crap, if you're hungry enough, you drink beer from inside a puddle on the ground, and that's just how we live. It's filthy, and then and that's how this felt to me.
Yeah, his delivery of that line was so matter of fact. I was kind of shocked, to be honest. You're aware that sort of thing happens, but to see it in that context, and he was saying it just like, "Oh, I have to go pick up, groceries on the way home." The way he said it was.
There was the design is extraordinary. I
Oh,
went
yes.
and rewatched just the opening credit sequence like 3 or 4 times, and showed it off to John because it's like it told you everything you needed to know about the tone and the world. And there's a great moment of editing, a great moment of design work, and a great moment of editing because it starts with that propaganda piece that hey, everything's great, it's an awesome thing, and you see the American flag, and I don't know how long they got footage of that American flag to exactly capture the fact that they cut to it. It's clearly the American flag, and then the wind blows just right, and it unfurls that swastika on the blue field. It's and all of a sudden it's like a slap in the face. You're like, whoa, this is where we are. Loved it.
We should give credit to the director David Semmel, who actually was the director on the episode, because you're right, man. He just nailed so many pieces of this for me, and I agree with both you guys. The overall world is well captured. It feels like a gritty. In fact, I was feeling like it feels like a late 40s, early 50s, even though it's supposedly early 60s. And I think that's because the war didn't end until I think they allude to 1953 as being the end of the war. And so I think that naturally would retard development. And
It's like
little
stopped in
things like
time
that
a
are
bit.
paid attention
Yeah.
to.
Well, imagine this, and this is a world where there was no baby boom. The troops didn't come home. There wasn't suddenly a giant influx of labor and creative energy and capitalism. Instead, there was just process and
destruction, right? Must have been an invasion. So
did you notice the cars, the vehicles? All the vehicles are so quirky, and they have this Eastern European feel to them. And the fact that the Japanese ambassadors arrive on a supersonic jet, something bigger than the Concorde and as fast which was amazing to me because it looked like a 737.
that's straight out of the book. All of the aircraft are German-run and V2 rocket-powered or derivations thereof. So they don't call them airplanes. They call them like rocket planes or something. I can't remember exactly.
That's great. And that's another moment. As you know, I hate missing things, so I always leave the closed captioning on. That's one of those little subtle moments where the closed captioning read sonic boom heard, which conveyed to me that this is a hypersonic vehicle. How gorgeous is Japanese occupied San Francisco? I just can't say enough about the visual elements, about the I loved and I'm sad that I don't remember her name, but the whole scene when she discovers the film and you see her watching it again and again and again before you even know what it is, and then it's revealed in stages and then ultimately like flatly explained later on. It's great.
See, the Verge review on this criticized that moment because they say one of the powers of this episode is that it's showing you the alternate view of things, and they suddenly take you out of that by showing you the reality and having her say, when he says, "Yeah, but it's not real," and she says, "No, it is real." And I don't agree. I felt like that was perfectly consistent with what the story is trying to get across. In the book, what's awesome is The Grasshopper Lies Heavy is a book about what would have happened if Japan and Germany hadn't won the war. And it's a book that describes our reality, right? So there's this great little snake eating itself feel to it. In the TV show, it's such a perfect choice to make it a newsreel because you get that same, like, I'm watching an alternate video and yet she's watching a video of an alternate reality that is my reality.
Man,
I had a question about that though, actually, because in the book, it's a book. The Grasshopper Lies Heavy is a book. So making it a newsreel, while I agree with you, Tom, extremely striking and a beautiful way to do that, I'm trying to figure out, with checking your papers and all the propaganda and, just the way the country is run now, which, by the way, looking at the map was pretty terrifying when they had the map that was split in two. How did they film this stuff?
Yeah, no, I thought that too.
I
Actually,
was
it's a
like,
good point.
if there's all this secretive stuff and you're not supposed to do this and we're checking your papers, where did they go film all this stuff?
Well, and this is where the Verge criticism might be apropos. There is a thing in the book that I'm not going to mention because it would be spoilery that could shed some light on that.
Can I real quick? Yeah. First of all, if you, I don't want to hear it because not having read the book, I feel like I have something precious and wonderful. I'm a little bit sad to even know that in the book version, it's a book because right now I have no idea what to expect. And I don't know if this is an artifact that came from a different reality.
And none of that changes by telling you it was a book in the book.
I trust
it's
you.
It's exactly the same MacGuffin because all it's doing is like you're consuming a piece of media the way the character in the book is. That's exactly what you get out of this episode.
Well, and I guess I'm loving not knowing. I'm loving, we talk about this all the time. Questions are better than answer. And I can't remember the last time I had a first episode of a show that just sent my mind racing with so many really interesting questions. One other note on the design front. Loved the it's a weird thing to say I loved. I thought it was very subtle, and this was probably in the book as well, but all of the Nazi armbands that they're wearing have the American stripes behind the swastika. I don't know if that was in there or not.
It's what's interesting, and I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. I can't help it. The book takes place entirely in the Pacific states, in San Francisco, or in the Rocky Mountain states, which are what's called the neutral zone in this. We never see the Nazi-occupied areas in the book.
God, wow.
So you already opened this episode, and that's what it scared me when they opened this episode in New York. And I'm like, oh no, they've changed everything? And I'm like, well, maybe that's good. And then as they go along and they go to San Francisco, I'm like, oh, they haven't changed everything. There's one character, Bob Chilton, that I'm curious if he's going to show up or not. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Be interesting to see what they do with it. But I adore what they've done with it.
This
Rufus Sewell was a terrifying. I think his name is actually John Smith in the pilot. Excuse me, but I mean he was just a terrifying Nazi figure. He did that. I don't want to say well, but he was a scary character. His acting was magnificent. Didn't you think?
They also did. I mean, all the acting was excellent, and this was another awesome little tidbit that I got, and it's sort of a bit of an insight to what the creators wanted when. I assume that's the character. I'm still learning all the characters' names, but when one of the bad Nazis shows up and he starts speaking in the subtitles, it says American accent.
Oh yeah,
like as
that's
if
interesting
it's
that they
so,
noted that for you.
Yeah, it's so ingrained into us to see that that style, that Nazi clothing style, into.
And it's important to know that this guy, not German.
Yes, correct. It's
like this is someone who was turned.
It's American to be in this party because it is the only party in America now.
Yeah.
And visual. The scene with the ambassadors at the embassy. That Art Deco swastika in the background, silhouetted, the Japanese on the right, the Germans on the left. They end their meeting, the Japanese bowing, the Germans sig heiling. I mean, it's just chilling, and you just realize that this is not a show about the Americans finally overturning of it. This is a show about the coming war between Japan and Germany.
Right? Yeah.
Over the American territories.
Germany didn't have much respect for Japan, really. They were on the other side of the world. That just kept bleeding the U.S. and some of the other countries a little bit for them. That's all they cared about. They didn't like Japan, as far as I know.
Yeah. I can't. I gotta stop talking because I just want to keep on going. In fact,
I'll tell you the one thing that made me mad about this, and it was my own mistake. For some reason, I don't know where I got the impression. I thought this was one of the pilots that was already picked up.
Oh.
So episode 1 ended, and I was like, okay, let's watch the next one.
Yeah.
What do you mean there's no next one? Where's the show? So
I knew it was only one show, and I still felt that at the end. I was like, no, give me episode 2, please. Yeah. I one last thing before we move off of this. I know we're gushing about it, but the Tagomi character, I thought he nailed it. He's really interesting. That character and his reliance on the I Ching, like, introduced me to the idea of Taoism and the I Ching and the Yarrow stocks and the Oracle, and I'd like dived in and learned everything I could about that based on the book. So I'm really glad that they're keeping that factor in, even though it's a little bit of not an anachronism, but it's a little bit weird to have a Japanese guy using a Chinese oracle. But that's kind of the world. Is like Japan has conquered China is the implication there, and he's like, oh, I'm going to take this and use this to kind of help guide me as I make my decisions.
How about our heroine's mom just unrepentantly racist and raging about the fact that they're occupied, and the fact that they're able to get away with that and not they've created this such a believable world that it didn't even feel weird to me. It's like, yeah, that seems appropriate. I would be
because the attitude of the daughter is old racist mom. What are you gonna do? Like it just kind of, it's like we've all seen that reality in some kind of reflective way, right?
Sure. Man. Yeah, I'm done. I can't. I got to stop gushing.
All right. Yeah, we got to. Any last words on this, Christy, before we move to Agent Carter?
Yes. When is episode 2? Where's Michelle?
It's gonna be a year, right?
Well, if it was February for Transparent, that came along in what, August? I want to say so.
You know what? I wonder if it's the kind of thing where they have to know that they have a hit on their hands, or the chatter. My guess is people, officially they don't get started because there's not contracts or whatever, but then quietly people are writing scripts and actors are arranging schedules and designers are, figuring out that kind of stuff. I mean,
just in case.
Yeah.
We hope.
All right, let's talk about Agent Carter. I am caught up. It's funny, earlier, Christy, you said you watched all 3 episodes, and I'd forgotten that when they aired the first 2, they aired them back to back. Because I was like, oh, I think I missed one, but I haven't missed one because they aired the first 2 the first week and then the other one last week. So I think I did watch 3 episodes now that I think about it. Brian, how many have you watched?
I've only watched the first half of the first one. I watched it with Bonnie, and it was one that I believe Penny was there. It's weirdly, it's good enough that I don't that it's off the list for me to just watch it on my own. So I have to arrange with other family members to make it happen. Love the idea that they're able to capture, by essentially having the Marvel Cinematic Universe most popular character of Tony Stark. Like, well, we got Tony Stark, and it's not weird that we have to give him be played by a different actor because it's technically his dad, but it's pretty much Tony Stark with the in the 40s or whatever.
And he comes back next week. He's not really in episode 3. And not to get too spoilery in front of Brian, Christy, but I did feel like episode 3 slowed down quite a bit. It only because the first 2 episodes were so good, maybe. And episode 3 feels like more like a connective tissue episode that we need to kind of get us from one place to another.
By the way, you could totally spoil me. I mean, it's like I'm in, and I don't think anything will be taken away. I remember last week you had said that they did a good job in the pilot of blending in a not cheesy way footage from the original Captain America movie, and I definitely think they did that. I think I see what they're going for stylistically and really enjoy it.
I also like what they did with the Peggy Carter character, which she's been in the movies a little bit, but just how she's strong without being kind of overbearing, and she's slightly sarcastic, and she just kind of puts up with all the guys in the office that just treat her like this little secretary girl. It's just funny to me. Like, obviously that's a product of the times, the 1940s, but it's especially funny in that environment to watch how she deals with the guys in her office.
It's an interesting way to handle that kind of character too, because you usually see it as either the mousy girl who's underappreciated or the overbearing woman who everyone thinks is a bitch, but she gets things done. And Peggy Carter's neither of those. She's not mousy at all.
No.
She doesn't put up with stuff, but they also still don't respect her. It's not like, oh, just because she stood up for herself, she suddenly changed everyone around her. No, they're still jerks.
Well, and she seems to, at least, from what I've seen so far, be at peace. Like, yeah, this is just the world, and this is what I deal with, and that's fine. It's
not fine, but I'm not going to change it, so I just need to carry on and not use it as an excuse for now.
Yeah. It's not that heavy-handed, like, that Mad Men was so guilty of. In the pilot episode, it's almost painful to watch, misogyny, remember that? Everyone smokes. It was just so beating you over the head with it, whereas they're much more subtle about again, from what I've seen, the feminism side of things on Agent Carter.
What did you guys think of her kind of relationship with Jarvis, how she's getting to know Jarvis? Jarvis is an interesting character to me, too.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
She doesn't like to take any guff from him. She underestimates him, which is a kind of interesting minor turnabout. And I cannot wait for the reveal of Jarvis's wife, who he's referenced now several times, and we've heard once call his name in the background.
Mm-hmm. She's the invisible wife.
Yes. She is. I think they're holding that for a reveal for a reason, and I'm not even sure. I have several different theories, so I don't want to share any of them. But I feel like that's an intriguing mystery on purpose.
Yes, I agree. I wonder if they're ever going to show her. Actually, if there's a reason why.
Maybe it's like a Charlie's Angels thing, where that that will be the Charlie to Jarvis. We'll never actually, because maybe robot. I don't know.
Maybe this is another one though that, like Brian was saying, where the whole ambiance of the piece and the set design and everything also creates a world, this one obviously being in the 1940s, that is just so period specific and very cool to watch. I like that element of it as well, the way they put everything together, costumes, the way the office is set up, everything looks so cool.
And they're able to still carry off action without cheating. This is the kind of series where they could have a gizmo do everything, and they don't. She has to use payphones, and she can't call. She has to run to a place to get a message out. Like, they don't cheat that often. The technology is saved mostly for the MacGuffin that the evil guys have. Yeah.
For Stark stuff. Yeah.
It's
very cool.
I'm totally out of content. You guys have exhausted my experience with this. So if you're waiting on me for any insights, I got nothing.
Also, I'm really jealous that she can go to an automat, because
me too.
I want to eat there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I tried to go to an automat one time in New York City, and it had closed like the week before.
Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. I was sad too.
Yeah.
Push a button, get a sandwich. I mean,
who doesn't love pushing a button, getting a sandwich? That's the American way. That's what we were fighting for in World War II.
So,
all right.
We got the shield, and then there was one other thing we were going to talk about. What was the
Marco Polo, episode 6.
Oh yeah, let's get this out of the way. First, they told me that episode 3 would be the one where it got really good. Then they said, well, I mean, but it really gets good at episode 6, and now I'm at episode 6, and I don't think I'm ever gonna get into it. I will finish it out.
Watching the series. I will do it because I'm just invested enough, mostly in Kubla Khan, to want to see how it turns out. I do think that the Blue Princess became more interesting this episode. I do think that we actually got a payoff that I didn't expect, which was the woman who had been sent from the Han Dynasty court revealed herself and tried to kill Kubla Khan, right?
Yeah, although it wasn't entirely clear to me, what was it that triggered her to just utterly blow her
He sent
cover?
a message to her, and she got she received the message. He basically said, pull the trigger.
Okay. Oh, that's right. And she found out that he had her daughter and all that stuff. Yeah. Man, why is Marco Polo in this stupid show? Why do they?
Which one's Marco Polo again?
He's clearly the white empty vessel that's meant to represent the American viewing public.
That guy. Thought it was like, oh, we gotta have a token white guy in here.
I guess, and it's like he's a fine actor, and it's like Thousand Eyes I think is a cool character. I mean, to be honest, I would watch it if it was a buddy cop commentary or a comedy with Kubla Khan and Thousand Eyes solving crime,
fighting crime.
I would watch the hell out of that, man. and then and then it's like they end with an orgy at every episode. That's pretty much. I don't know. It's
this episode was fine. I actually remember now watching it and thinking like, all right, there's interesting things that I didn't expect actually happening now. Or I'm seeing the makings of some intrigue and something that would interest me. I'm going to keep going. And then I forgot to put it in the Cordkillers doc, and I forgot I had watched it until Brian put Marco Polo in the doc under what he had watched. And I realized, oh, right, I did watch Marco Polo.
So it really made an impression on you then, huh?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be a hater when I say that. Like, that is the fact of the matter. Like, I actually didn't hate the episode. I liked the episode, and then yet I still just totally forgot about it.
Yeah. I forgot to mention on Under Surveillance, I did randomly, I stumbled across somebody had all the Mr. Show episodes on posted on YouTube, which I didn't feel terribly guilty watching because I have access to HBO Go, and I believe they're up on Amazon Prime. They're not? Are they not?
They're not on HBO Go.
Oh, wow. Anyway, but man, that show holds up. And it's just weirder as one by one, every one of those guys has gone on to have a superstar comedy career. To see them all together, it's as though, it's a fantasy to watch it.
Shall we move on to The Shield then?
Yeah, man. Let's burn through this.
Okay. This is the one where I feel like maybe I underplayed this. At the end of Insurgents, which we talked about last week, is where Vic finds out because of the camera in the car that Shane is working for Antoine.
Got it.
Now, this week, I'm like, oh, okay, so they'll play that out. Oh, no. This week, he finds out from the cam in the car that Antoine wants Shane to kill Vic, and that Vic has agreed, or that Shane has agreed to do it. And so really pretty much everything else in this episode pales to what's Vic going to do about Shane. Like, it's bad enough when he knows that Shane is on the take, and then it gets really bad. And of course they go in for the bust together, and there's this brilliant wordless scene where you see Shane looking anguished. You see Vic looking pissed. You see Vic look at Shane look at Vic. Vic realizes that it's true. And that's it. That's the end. And Vic won't even get a ride home from Shane. Just walks off on his own and decides to take matters into his own hand and fix the problem with the Russian mob single-handedly as Super Vic, just because he's angry.
This is what's amazing is you get so many threads that don't really resolve, but instead just get eclipsed by bigger and more terrifying aspects. Like what seems like the biggest problem in the world suddenly is nothing compared to what's on the table now. Because it's like at this point where we're looking at a world, where Vic is about to go to war with Shane. How little do we care about whether or not he gets arrested for the murder of his cohort in the very first episode back in the pilot? Not, it's like that's still relevant and in the background, but at this point we've advanced to so many more terrifying, pressing issues.
No, that went through my mind because when they do that little standoff moment, I'm thinking, is Shane going to try to shoot Vic? Is Vic gonna shoot Shane because he'd make Shane go first? Like, anything can happen. And they've set that tone from episode 1 so that you don't know.
Yeah. And they certainly, and it's hard because it's like, in order to build a reputation for you believing it's possible that anything, there are certain movies where heroes lost it. They lost all stakes once they made all the characters out of rubber, and anyone who dies, they can come back, whatever, from a different, universe or whatever. But by giving such a sequence of big events and moments with terrifying consequences. Same thing that Game of Thrones does. When somebody dies on Game of Thrones, that they're dead. They're dead. Well, and with one exception, that seems to be brewing.
Most of the time. 99% of the time.
but there are, what I'm saying is you build up, and to be honest, that's why that show is making that's why that's a significant event, is because they've never given any possibility, I don't want to give up on.
Well, on the TV show, everybody who's died is dead.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say. So yeah, I mean, there are some other important things that happen in this episode. Aceveda shakes down Monica Rawlings, basically, pulls the rug out from under her seizure policy and is playing hardball. Like, you need to cooperate with me or I'm going to shut you down.
In the synopsis, it says that he uses a cleverly edited videotape. What was the shenanigan on that?
Yeah, the synopsis overplays that, because I read that synopsis and I thought that's what this episode was going to be about. Essentially, in the previous episode, they had raided the church, and at one point, Vic grabs one of the guys running away from him, thrusts him down on the floor, puts a gun to his head, to get him to stop, and you hear screaming. So the video that's edited only has that part.
Oh, got it. So it looks like he's got
look like the cops busted into a church and terrorized people for no reason, right? And so he's like, look, I could make this go away if you want to play ball. Yeah, so it really doesn't really hurt Vic Mackey's career yet. There is this sort of looming threat from the chief that's like, you need to control Vic Mackey. So that's certainly not making his day. But the fact that he sees the tape about Shane kind of just blows that out of the water. Like,
sure.
You don't even care about that anymore. There's also another important moment, I'm sure, but I can't remember what it is. I just had it because it was Aceveda. Oh, Julian. There's a great moment where earlier in the episode, as part of the seizure policy, they say Vic needs a new ride. Go seize one. So they pull over these guys from Illinois who have expired plates, find drugs in their car, seize the car. And Julian gets bothered by it. So later on, they find a white guy who has a bit of pot in his car. Or no, it's not pot. It's bootleg DVDs in his car. And Julian seizes the car. He's like, it's exactly the same thing we did earlier to those guys from Illinois.
Oh, wow. So that's the moment that he starts to call out the policy. Yeah.
And then
just
basically
by
Captain Rawlings asks for his transfer or resignation. Because he doesn't want to play along.
Well, cool, man. I guess everything's spoiled. We got rotten milk. That's the new name of Spoilerin.
Smell that. Is the new name of the show.
Thanks for sticking around. I hope we didn't ruin everything for you, Miss Christy Cates.
No, that was great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Christy, for sticking around. ChristyCates.com. That's K's, KRISTIKATES.com. Go check it out.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.